Okay. What is sex? Is a very important question to ask yourself. Well, we say about it sexual intercourse, right? Intercourse. It just means nothing. Well, sex is a word, and it's about sexuality. Sex. We also say the gender is sex. So what's your sex? So, sex. Yeah, in German it's called Geschlechtsverkehr, which means like gender intercourse or something. And that's then basically Geschlecht is also gender. So in that sense, sex is two different genders come together and then they interact with each other. And when you watch Avatar, for instance, the movie with the blue people, you realize, they have this hair which allows them to connect with themselves and the world around them. You don't really need that because you're doing it already. I mean, hair does that naturally. That's one reason why I shave off my hair, because it's too much. I pick up too many things and it's too much effort to maintain that for me. Because like a beard is something different, but I want to detach myself from the world a little. And that's why I keep my hair short. Because if my hair is long, in this kind of environment, it just drives me insane. So if I would live in nature, I'd probably have long hair. But right now, I just feel like it's too much. It's driving me nuts with all these vibrations and all this dirt and all this toxicity. Like, people have all toxic thoughts. The environment is toxic. All these Wi-Fi signals. I have a beard because it channels masculine energy into my body. It makes me more rigid and more stern and more masculine. Not just because I look like that, but because I feel like it. If I cut off my beard, I become a bit more like funny. And I don't want that. I want stability. And so I have a beard. That's just how it is. And so if we talk about sex, then you have the masculine and the feminine, and they come together and they connect with each other. Sex in the general sense is the feeling of oneness with another person. And that can feel like pleasure, but do not be mistaken. If you really engage with another person, you sleep with each other. What does that mean? I mean, the penis and the vagina, it's like, it's not just about this in and out stuff, what people do. It's not just about the friction. If you focus on energy flow and you would sit in a lotus position or with crossed legs as a man, and then the woman comes and sits in your lap and you hold each other like this, then sex is basically meditation. So you basically start channeling energy through each other, and then you connect with higher wisdom like that. So if you really do tantric practice, it's just a word, but that's just the closest thing I can give you, then that's like a psychedelic experience. Just through the connection with another person, to experience oneness and to become one, and out of that connection of oneness comes a child. So it's born from their love for each other. But to get to that point where you can actually do that, where you can hold the energy, because the way people do it is, they just have sex and all they want is the orgasm. So it's over really quickly. But there are other methods of doing this. And that's without all the rubbing, where you just connect and you actually, you stay inside of her and she can move around, that's for sure, but it doesn't have to be all this in and out and in and out. It's just like, it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't mean that it can't be, but it's more like to stay connected. And instead of having that kind of orgasm, you stretch the orgasm out, because an orgasm is that kind of explosion and then it's over. But if you learn to keep channeling your energy, so you learn to stop ejaculating, and you do that by working on your, the muscle between your scrotum and your anus. If you contract that during an orgasm, you have to practice that, of course, because it's like a fine balance, because you also have to want to channel the energy. Because if you wait for that feeling, that emptiness after ejaculation, then you won't get there. So you also have to want to keep the energy in. And that's the hard part. That's when you start getting stronger and stronger and connecting more with higher wisdom. But that also drives you insane in a sense. There's a lot of stuff going on. But the way I feel when I started to practice this, that if I masturbate, I don't ejaculate, I also had to deal with this energy that was suddenly piling up inside of my body, and that was pressing out all this kind of weird thoughts. And that's when you cling to thoughts. And when they're being pressed out of you, you get into states of, insane glory, but also insane madness, where it's just pure chaos. But the way I see it right now at this moment, after I ate oats and peanut butter with raisins and banana, so that's the food I eat to boost me, then I feel like this sometimes. Then you also have to deal with that kind of energy, and that's how it feels like. It's like pushing thoughts away from you, that you get to a place where you feel more. And that's actually quite incredible, because I haven't felt like this in a while. There's a kind of calmness about the way I feel right now. But now if you imagine you sleep with a woman, you bring her to a very vulnerable place. And if you just sleep with her because you want to have fun, well, that's kind of exploiting them, isn't it? So it's better to really settle on one partner at one point, and to just say, I'm gonna grow with you now. But you also have to be aware who is going to be that partner. And then you can really grow as a couple, and then sex becomes something totally different, where it's not this greedy kind of, I want an orgasm, but just, I want to hold this connection as long as possible, because I really want to be together with you as one. So sex is a way to experience oneness with another person. And that's a very pure form of connecting with another being. But I realized that in order to get there, you have to do a lot of cleansing, a lot of purification exercises to cleanse your body physically, but also emotionally. And that's what I've been doing. So I've been depriving myself of sex. I still did watch porn for quite some time, but what I was watching also changed. You see, so there's a lot of like, okay, I'm preparing myself to be with a real woman or a real man. And that's why I'm not sleeping around with people who don't do that kind of stuff. And generally all people who just sleep around, they just get really dirty. And that makes you then really dirty. And then really angry and really unbalanced. And I didn't want to have all that shit in me anymore. Just because I was too weak to say no. But yeah, anyway, so what is sex? It's a way to connect with another person on a very deep level. I don't want to say spiritual too much, but it is in that sense. It's a ritual. Sex in itself should be a ritual, and you should take time for that. Like, I'm not really a great fan of the idea of quickies, I think. But in general, sex is a way to connect with one another and to raise the energy level of you and your partner. So in that sense, sex is a bit like psychedelics, only it's part of your system, yeah? Psychedelics, you have to ingest them. But sex is already there. You've got the tools. You only have to learn how to use them. So if you just keep like sticking it in there and poking around, you also have to want to grow and want to learn. And if your partner doesn't want to grow or learn, well, maybe they're not it for you. But that's what you have to decide then. You know, do you want to stay at that level or do you want to keep growing? And if your partner holds you back, then sometimes it's better to just move on. That's how I feel like, you know. I'm not telling people to break up their relationships, but, you know, some relationships are just a result of fear and not of love. That's all I'm saying. So, of course, it's your choice, right? If you run around now breaking up with everybody, then you have to deal with the consequences. I'm just saying stuff here. That's how I felt when I look at all the relationships I had previously. And that's all I had to say on sex. You know, I don't have that much to say on it, but it was still enough to say it anyway.